It happened on a Tuesday, just like any other day. People were rushing to work, kids were heading to school, then suddenly everything stopped. The power went out, not just in one house or one block, it went out everywhere. Phones died, computers shut down, even cars stopped working. It was as if someone had hit a giant off switch for the whole world. Lila as Lila. I was in my apartment when it happened. I'd been scrolling through my phone, barely noticing the world around me. Then silence. The hum of electronics disappeared. The constant notifications ceased. At first, I felt lost, disconnected. But as Lila looked out her window, she saw something extraordinary. People were coming out of their homes. They were looking up from their devices. For the first time in years, they were really seeing each other. The city transformed in an instant. Traffic lights were dark. Stores were closed. But the streets came alive with people. They weren't rushing anymore. They were talking, helping each other, sharing information. Lila as Lila. I watched as neighbors who had never spoken before started to introduce themselves. I saw children playing games in the street instead of on screens. It was chaos, but there was beauty in it. As night fell, the city looked different. No neon signs, no glowing screens in windows, but there was light. People brought out candles. They lit fires in drums on the street. The stars seemed brighter than ever before. Lila realized that this wasn't just a power outage. It was the beginning of something new, something that would change everything. Lila as Lila. And as I watched the flickering lights below, I felt a strange mix of fear and hope. The world as I knew it had stopped. But maybe, just maybe, something better was about to begin. Days passed and the power didn't come back. At first people panicked. They waited for things to return to normal. But normal never came. Instead, something unexpected happened. People started to connect, really connect, not through likes or comments, but through words and touch. Lila as Lila. I saw it everywhere I went. In the parks, on the streets, in makeshift community centres. Families who used to eat in silence, each lost in their own digital world, now talked for hours over candlelit dinners. They shared stories, they laughed, they cried. Children who once spent hours gaming now played hide and seek in the neighbourhood. Adults who worked from home and rarely left their apartments now gathered in community gardens. They grew food together, they shared meals, they built friendships. Lila as Lila. I found myself part of this change. I used to work as a graphic designer, always behind a screen. Now I was teaching art to kids in the park. I watched as they discovered the joy of creating with their hands, of seeing their imaginations come to life on paper. She saw adults rediscovering hobbies they had long forgotten. Knitting circles formed. Book clubs met in person, discussing stories by candlelight. The city itself seemed to transform. Without the constant noise of traffic and technology, people could hear birds singing. They could smell flowers blooming. Nature, once pushed to the background, now took center stage. People started to notice the world around them. They appreciated the small things, a sunset, a kind gesture, a shared smile. Lila as Lila. I realized that in losing our digital connections, we had found something far more valuable. We had found each other, and in doing so, we had found ourselves. As weeks turned into months, Lila felt a stirring inside her, an urge to create, to capture this moment in time. She found a large blank wall in the heart of the city. With permission from neighbours, she began to paint. At first, people just watched, but soon they started to help. Lila as Lila. Children brought me colours they had mixed from flowers and berries. Adults offered stories and ideas. The mural became a community project. Day by day, the mural grew. It showed scenes from our new life. People talking face to face, children playing in the streets, gardens blooming where parking lots once stood. But it wasn't just a picture of what was happening, it was a vision of what could be. Lila painted hope into every brushstroke. She showed a world where technology and nature coexisted, where human connection was valued above all else. Lila as Lila. The mural became a symbol of our resilience. People came from all over the city to see it. They brought chairs and sat in front of it for hours. They talked about what they saw, what it meant to them. Some cried, some laughed. But everyone felt something. The mural spoke to their shared experience. their shared struggle, their shared hope. As Lila worked, she met a young writer named Ethan. He was fascinated by the stories people shared as they looked at the mural. He started to write them down. Ethan as Ethan. Together, Lila and I realized we were capturing something important. We were documenting a pivotal moment in human history. The day the world stopped, and the day humanity started to truly live again. Little did they know, their collaboration would soon impact far more than just their city.
As time passed, society began to adapt to this new reality. People realized that many of the systems they relied on needed to change. Without the internet and modern technology, they had to find new ways to do things. Or rather, old ways. Ways that their grandparents might have used.
It wasn't easy, but it was necessary, and in many ways it was better. Education transformed. Schools moved outdoors when possible. Children learned by doing, not just by memorizing. They studied nature firsthand. They learned math by building things. History came alive through storytelling and reenactments.
Adults shared their skills, becoming teachers in their areas of expertise. A former chef taught cooking classes using vegetables from the community garden. A retired carpenter showed people how to build and repair without power tools.
Healthcare changed too. Without advanced medical technology, people focused more on prevention. They ate better, exercised more. Herbal remedies, once dismissed, became valuable again. Communities appointed health advisors who knew basic medical care. They helped with minor issues and coordinated care for more serious problems. People looked out for each other, especially the elderly and vulnerable.
Transportation saw a huge shift. Bikes became the main mode of travel. People walked more. They stayed closer to home. Cities redesigned streets for pedestrians and cyclists. Old railroads were revived for longer journeys. Horses and carts made a comeback in some areas.
It was slower, but people found they enjoyed the journey more. They noticed things they never saw before. They talked to fellow travelers. The world seemed bigger yet more connected.
Lila and Ethan's collaboration didn't stop with the mural. They decided to write a book. It wasn't easy without computers or printers. They wrote by hand on paper made from recycled materials.
The book told the story of their city, of how people came together when everything fell apart. It was filled with hope, but it didn't shy away from the challenges. It was honest, real, human.
They didn't expect much when they finished. Maybe a few people in their community would read it. But something unexpected happened. People started to copy the book by hand. They passed it along to friends and family. It spread to other cities, other countries. Soon, translations appeared. The book traveled across oceans, carried by people who believed in its message.
The book became more than just a story. It became a blueprint for a new way of living. People around the world were inspired. They started to implement the ideas in their own communities. They created their own murals. They wrote their own stories.
A global movement began to form, not through the internet or social media, but through word of mouth, through human connection. Lila and Ethan were amazed. They never set out to change the world. They just wanted to share their experience, to offer hope.
But their words had power. They showed people that another way was possible. A way that balanced technology with human needs. A way that put connection and community first. Their book became a symbol of this new world. A world born from the day everything stopped.
Years passed. Slowly, technology began to return. But it wasn't the same as before. People had learned valuable lessons during the blackout. They didn't want to go back to the way things were. Instead, they sought balance. They wanted technology that enhanced human connection, not replaced it. That solved real problems, not created artificial needs.
Cities were redesigned with this in mind. Green spaces were protected. Community areas were prioritized. Technology was integrated thoughtfully. Solar panels and wind turbines provided clean energy.
Communication systems were rebuilt, but with limits. There were times when the networks were turned off, encouraging face-to-face interaction. Schools used technology as a tool, not as the foundation of learning. Workplaces found a balance between remote work and in-person collaboration.
The lessons from the blackout influenced every aspect of society. Healthcare focused on holistic wellness, using technology to support natural healing. Transportation systems prioritized clean energy and shared spaces. Governments became more local, more responsive to community needs. Global communication continued, but with a new emphasis on cultural exchange and understanding.
Lila and Ethan, now older, looked at the world around them with wonder. The murals still stood, a reminder of where they had been. Their book was now taught in schools, a lesson in resilience and hope. But more than that, they saw their vision come to life.
A world where technology and human connection coexisted in harmony, where people valued each other and the planet. It wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, but there was also joy, community, purpose.
The day the world stopped had led to a new beginning, a chance to redefine what truly mattered. And as Lila watched a new generation grow up in this world, she felt a deep sense of peace. They had not just survived, they had thrived. And the best was yet to come.